You're watching Byline Wilmington on CBS 10 WILM. Here's your host, Don Ansell.
Okay, we're back with Jimmy Bass, the new athletic director of UNCW, only the 6th in the history of the institution. Jimmy, thanks for coming in.
Don,
great to meet you.
It's a pleasure to be here. Sarah and I are excited to once again be a part of the Wilmington community.
So I'm always interested in the inside story of how the job came about. I mean, you don't look in the one hand and say, let me see what's happening. How did the job come about?
Well, you know, word gets around it's a small fraternity in terms of college athletics and the number of Division I athletic directors jobs that are out there. When the decision was made to try to find a new AD, we know the few search consultants and knew Bill Carr.
So you heard about it?
So it got going very quickly, and Bill Carr knew of my interest in this job if it ever came open.
Oh,
and so
you had put out that out there.
It's easy again to communicate with your peers around the nation, and folks also within the Colonial Athletic Association, and so. It got moving pretty quickly, really fast.
Well, and it's like, I guess, coming home in a way, because most folks know that you're no stranger to UNCW sports. For those who may not know, in the late 80s, you built the Seahawk Club and took it from 250 members to 1,100.
We created a lot of energy then.
In 3 years.
We were really lucky. We played for the Colonial Men's Basketball Championship 2 out of the 3 years. David Robinson was playing at the Naval Academy. UNC Wilmington had a big 7-footer of its own, Brian Rowsome,
right,
who just stood toe-to-toe with David Robinson. And we had the first student camp out for basketball tickets in UNCW history on a night that it snowed.
Which is pretty unusual in Wilmington.
Sure.
Anyway. So you built it in 3 years from 250 members to 1,100 members back then. How does success like that translate to today's environment?
Well, obviously the city's bigger. The community's grown, the corporate communities has gotten larger, the student enrollment is larger, and more importantly for what we're going to try to do, the alumni base has expanded. And you know, they tell me we've got a good alumni base all down the I-85 corridor from the Triangle area through the Triad down to Charlotte, and that'll be a base of our a good base of work for us to jump into.
What are your top priorities?
We've got to pay for all the athletic scholarships. We've got 19 sports. There are only 2 sports that are fully funded according to NCAA maximums, both the men's and the women's basketball programs. We've got to pay for those scholarships. We've got to bring a fragmented fan base back together. We've got to reach out, again, to the corporate community. We've got to reach out to our student body. We've got to reach out to our alumni and then our fans here in the New Hanover County area. We've got to bring them back to campus.
How do you do that?
Well, we first of all, we're going to sell a vision that everybody can believe in. We're going to create a strategic plan that everybody can invest in. And then our coaches, we're starting to meet with our coaches tomorrow, and going to try to make sure they understand, and we want to inspire them. I've told them I want them to coach, I want them to recruit, I want them to make sure our kids go to class. I want to make sure our kids graduate. It's my responsibility to generate the resources.
I asked, in our last segment, I asked Coach Cooper, you know, how you rebuild the image. She said, winning.
Well, and I think what we've got to do is build consistency. What we've got to do is build a consistency to our program that will withstand the ups and downs of competition. You know, it wasn't too long ago that UNC Wilmington was the class program of the Colonial Athletic Association. And since then, as we've gone through some lean years here, George Mason obviously has enjoyed some success taking a team to the Final Four. Virginia Commonwealth beat Duke several years ago in the NCAA tournament, and we've got to return the program. And I think that's the consistency. What our fans have got to realize is we need them there, win or lose. But we've got 2 great coaches right now.
And it's no secret in general that the revenue sports at UNCW have been underperforming for far too long. Does that make your job easier or harder?
Well, no, I don't think so. I think they're there's nowhere to go but up right now with our programs, and certainly our fan base, our administrative staff has joined in, and they feel the momentum. Again, we're going to start meeting with our coaches Monday, tomorrow, and there's and even I was so impressed at the press conference back on October 19th. We had several full teams show up. Our representatives from the women's basketball team, the men's soccer team showed up, the entire men's golf team showed up. So our student athletes are certainly committed to what needs to be done here also.
What are the sports department's biggest money makers?
Obviously, men's basketball is a flagship sport, and I think what we've got to convince our other coaches, if our men's basketball program is successful, it's going to breed success for their programs. It's going to generate additional resources that we can spend on the tennis programs and the swimming programs and the softball programs. So I think all of our coaches buy into that if we can make our men's basketball program successful, they'll enjoy some additional successes.
I was reading about you, you've had some pretty high accolades from people who've worked with you. The CEO of ISP Sports, that's the marketing firm for our viewers who may not know, their CEO, Ben Sutton Jr., recently said, he's one of the best of the best of the best. So how hard is it to live up to such high praise?
Well, I think the key is building a team, and that's where we will start. You'll hear us talk an awful lot about team. You'll hear us talking about family. We've got to get the right people on the bus that buy into our philosophy here, and that's having successful programs and graduating student athletes. And if you surround yourself with competent people that believe in the same vision, we can accomplish it.
We're running out of time, but I don't want to leave this final segment without talking about the legendary Bill Brooks, who started and guided UNCW sports for more than 40 years, passed away this week. You worked with him, you knew him. Give us some thoughts about the man you knew.
I think the one term, if you ask me to say one word, is gentleman. He was always terrific. He would always listen. And more importantly, when he opened his mouth to talk, people would listen to him. He was a kind gentleman who cared about his student athletes. And I think yesterday at the memorial service, it was absolutely terrific to see the response from his former players and his colleagues. So he's a wonderful man. We will always treasure Bill Brooks' memory, and he'll always be a part of this Seahawk athletic program.
Any concerns about walking into a program where two of the big coach hires were made by the former AD, and just before the resignation of the chancellor that hired you?
No concerns whatsoever. They both have excellent reputations. Buzz has been successful and has won every step of the way at Tulsa, at Tennessee, at Coastal Carolina. He will win here. And Cynthia brings, what a pedigree she brings with Olympic gold medals and national championships. And if she can sell that type of tradition here and build that type of tradition, we'll all be tickled to death with our women's program too.
Thanks so much for coming.
My pleasure, Don. Thank you.
Yeah. Next week, talking about UNCW, the Chancellor, Rosemary DiPaolo, talks candidly about her decision to retire. That's next week on Byline. Thanks for joining us. Have a great week.
You've been watching Byline Wilmington on CBS 10 WILM. Join us every Sunday morning as we explore the issues that concern you.